Here at Helmuth Ford, we are a small town dealership with no hassle and no pressure.
The Watch Your Opera House in Watch Your, Iowa presents The Boys in concert Saturday, February 22nd from 7 to 9 p.m. The Boys are a dynamic band fronted by twin brothers Lee and Adam Klett. They bring a traditional feel back to modern country music. Their catchy original music will have you dancing and singing along. Admission is a free will donation. For more information, go to watchyouroperahouse.org. It's The Boys this Saturday at the Watch Your Opera House.
Life's better when you're under our roof. Because when you feel totally protected, your family's free to enjoy their dreams.
Try it again. You're getting the hang of this. Good job.
American Family Insurance.
Contact Christy Tarr in Oskaloosa at 641-673-8965. Schedule your next dental appointment with Dr. Dan Schuster at Oski Dental, 641-673-4845. They're accepting new patients. Oski Dental will file all of your insurance forms for you. They're a Delta dental provider. And Oski Dental is located at 902 South 17th Street in Oskaloosa. That's Oski Dental, 641-673-4845. We make smiles happen at Oski Dental.
Keokuk County Medical Clinic is your one-stop shop for healthcare. Our behavioral health providers offer a wide range of services to help you reach your goals. We have multiple family practice providers who see patients of all ages for acute and chronic care. Through a partnership with Bloom Pediatrics of Ottumwa, McKenna Bond, ARNP is here on Wednesday and Friday mornings to give your child the special care they need. Libby Dasso, PAC, is here for all your rheumatology needs. Jack's Corner Drug is located just down the hall for your convenience.
Welcome back to the show!
Welcome back to the show!
And now, your hosts of the Card Subject to Change podcast. The For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions of the World, the Wizard CZ, and Never Wrong Nick Bull.
Hello, one and all, and welcome back to another exciting edition of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan, for the fan. Of course, I am one half of the tag team champions here in the For Frequency's Sake network. I am co-host here also on the Card Subject to Change podcast. I am Never Wrong Nick Bull. We're so happy you found us. So happy to join us here on the For Frequency's Sake network. Of course you are. Card Subject to Change. We're here to talk some wrestling. And you can't talk wrestling by yourself. You got to have a partner. And I got one of the best tag team partners in the world, if not the best. The guy who makes this show run. I respect you, Booker, man. He is the one. He is the only. He is the Wizard CZ. Wiz, how are you doing tonight?
Man, I am feeling really good. Before we kick things into gear, I just want to give a shout out to Austin Bayless and Central Empire Wrestling. Zach Takis and I were supposed to do a liver out there yesterday, and we were a little scared of the roads. Not going to Oskaloosa, but how the weather with the wind and the partially covered roads, we're going to be coming home after dark, after nightfall. So we opted not to go.
Is it fair to say that you realize that Mother Nature, she doesn't job. She don't do job.
Yes. She don't do job.
You found out the hard way.
As
no, you were proactive. You were preemptive. You and Zach were both very, very smart about it. Whereas I probably would have been like, okay, I'm going no matter what. But you guys were smart about it for sure. And I mean, winter weather is nothing to mess around about. Not at all.
No, and you said Mother Nature doesn't job. I think Mil Mascara said it best, and I think Mother Nature takes after no job. But no, Austin had a great show last night from everything that I've heard. Had a really good turnout despite the threat of inclement weather. So shout out to our friends over at Central Empire Wrestling, Austin Bayless, Rory Fox, Jared Thumb in the main event last night. I wish I could have been there. I wish I had been there, but they've got another show coming up in May, and I think we'll be pulling the trigger on that one for sure, because May's not going to have a threat of snowfall.
Man, I hope not. If it is, we're in a lot of trouble. No, the independent scene, of course, is really thriving as we broadcast here out of the Midwest. Card Subject to Change is just, right in the heart of the Midwest and the Quad Cities, and we've got independent wrestling galore in our backyard, and props to Central Empire Wrestling, Austin Bayless, friend of the show, for their show they had last night in Oskaloosa, Mall Madness 2. But since you were able to be there for the pre-show podcast party, you were able to watch both shows that we're going to be talking about tonight. If you haven't guessed it by now, this is episode 174 of the Card Subject to Change podcast. Of course, we are powered by Low Pies Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, and protected by Jared Zook of Country Financial. So thankful for all those guys for being aboard. Thankful for you being aboard as well. Episode 174, Grand Vengeance. Of course, we're going to talk about Grand Slam Australia and Vengeance Day. You not being able to go out of town was able for you to watch both of those live. I, on the other hand, got back late from a game of my son's, and I watched the one that was taped already, or the one that already happened live. And we'll talk about that in a minute here with Grand Slam. And then I watched NXT late last night and then finished it as we record here, today on Sunday morning. As we record on Sunday afternoon, I finished it here, Sunday morning. So a lot of wrestling going on and a lot of wrestling to get to. Enough of us bumbling, stumbling around. Let's cut the music. Let's get in the ring and let's get ready for action here. What do we got, CZ?
Man, we might as well start with the show that physically happened first, even though it was on tape delay for us here in the States, and that is Grand Slam down in Australia. 5 matches on the card, which if this had been an actual pay-per-view event, there would have been double that. But this was essentially their replacement for Collision this week. Obviously, there's a 16-hour time difference between us and where the event was held in Australia. So we did not see it live, although Nick and I both talked off the air yesterday and today about how they could have put it on Max as it was airing. People stay up for the Japan shows, for Wrestle Kingdom and all things like that. They definitely could have pulled it off, Nick. But no, 5 matches on the card and five decent matches looking at what was there. A couple tag matches, a few title matches sprinkled in. What are your initial thoughts on the card, looking at what was coming up for Grand Slam?
I'm going to take your question and press pause because I will talk about the card in a second, because the card will be the ending of what my first take is going to be.
Okay.
I think this show was initially pitched, maybe sold and believed to have been a bigger venued show. I believe this was supposed to be outside on the soccer pitch in an Aussie stadium somewhere. And when ticket sales weren't good, they had to move it to a lower venue. Not knocking anybody here. I'm just stating facts. A couple days before the show, or the day of the show, fans are irate in Australia because the people who got the tickets right away didn't have access to the best seats. They put up better seats for sale right towards the show, and people were able to just come in, scoop, and get them. I would be upset if I had invested that much money as a fan and was told I had a seat, like a premium seat that I paid for, and then someone or, an option I didn't have to pay for that seat wasn't there when I was. I'd be a little upset too. I think initially the show was supposed to be bigger than what it was expected. I think this was supposed to be a pay-per-view initially. Maybe they soon found out it wasn't going to be and didn't want to say it publicly. I think it was intended to be a pay-per-view. low ticket sales, maybe production costs. We'll find out later that the wrong ring was being used. We'll get to that in a second. But I think for what they initially had planned and what it became, this card really delivered. And that's why I think that these matches are all very strong. These matches are all very good for this card, how the show played out. And I think AEW made something good happen out of something that was misfortunate and really bad that happened to them. They took something good from the bad and moved on and put on a good show. But I thought the card was strong. They had to have the local flavor on the show.
Yep.
Which they did. And it featured in most matches. So I get that. Crowd was great. Crowd was hot. And with that card, I was kind of shocked with what they kicked the show off with, but they wanted to set the tone, and here they kick off a show with a tag team match with four of today's brightest stars, at least in AEW, in the wrestling world. Kenny Omega is a given, okay? Will Ospreay is approaching that status, okay? And then you've got Konosuke Takeshita holding titles in two separate companies, respected companies, AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. And then you got Kyle Fletcher, who's probably the young upstart of them all. A little bit of backstory with the Don Callis family, of course. I thought this has been done and build up well. The promos have been good on TV. I think anytime Don Callis is involved with something and is able to be a voice, they're putting guys with him maybe that aren't good with promos or whatnot. I really like Don Callis, and it was funny that we were talking about Dynamite the other night with Don Callis or something, and then I texted you. Might have texted you later that night, and I was watching TNA, and I think I texted you a match. It was Don Callis and somebody.
Oh, I vaguely remember. I can't remember who you said it was with, but I remember the text.
And Don Callis won. But it was Don Callis with Scott Stapp hair from Creed. So Callis looks a lot different with the hair grown out, a little bit longer than what mine was. But regardless, just getting off on a Don Callis tangent there. But I really thought they put a decent card together. I guess I was expecting a few more matches. I didn't know this was just going to be. I'm in the persuasion of fans that did not know that this was going to be a substitute, the NutraSweet, if you will, for Collision. I did not know that. I knew that'd get a chuckle out of you. I was waiting for you to laugh about that one, but I did not know that this was going to be Collision Light. I did not know that until last night when I go into Max and I go in there just like you. I think I texted you. I'm like, did you click on this, and this? You go in to click on the thumbnail of the Grand Slam show, and it takes you to a Collision menu, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
So it was kind of confusing. I wish maybe I needed to pay better attention to what they say on TV. Maybe they did say this was going to be a substitute for Collision, and I never heard it and just kind of assumed it was going to be a little bit bigger show.
I don't know that they said anything on TV that I can remember specifically, but I know that there was some internet buzz where at one point in the last week, TK came on and said this was never intended to be a pay-per-view. I don't know if that's backpedaling because they had to change the venue, or if it legit was not supposed to be a big pay-per-view event. But if they were planning on having it in that giant stadium, then it absolutely, in my opinion, was planned as a pay-per-view. That's how I envision it. But I'm not Tony Khan. I'm not an EVP of AEW, so I can't make those calls. I can't say 100%.
I after I find all this stuff out, like in my mind, I'm treating this like a Clash of the Champions back in WCW days.
Okay.
Kind of what I'm treating it as. Even though, there were some. How many title matches were on the show? There were 2 title matches.
2.
2 of the 5 were title matches. Okay, so not every Clash of the Champions was every belt defended. So I'm fine with that.
No, 3. 3 title